Today's topic is rejection. If you've got 5 minutes, I've got 5 tips to help you deal with it. One of the universal realities of the writing life is rejection. And if you're going to be a writer, you're going to have to get used to it. Now, I can hear some of you right now saying, oh, I plan to self-publish, so it doesn't matter to me if agents and editors and publishers reject me. But I'm going to suggest to you that you still are going to deal with rejection, because there are going to be those times when someone's going to write that review and give you 1 star, and you, believe me, are going to feel rejected. So these tips are for everybody, whether you're publishing traditionally or self-publishing, or you're doing magazine writing or blog writing. Let me assure you that you need to develop a thick skin. And as far as I'm concerned, learning to deal with rejection and move on from it is one of the most important things that a new writer can do if you want to maintain a career as a writer and you want to maintain your sanity. Well, after over 35 years as a writer, I have been subjected to my own share of rejections over time. But I've also had enough successes that have kept me going and have kept my career on track. I've always known that I'd have to deal with rejections. And what's really interesting these days is that I find myself, because I have some online materials that people will sometimes write to me and say, could I write for you? I have to reject people myself sometimes and tell them, no, I'm sorry, you can't. It always feels bad, but it has to be done sometimes. And sometimes if you're on the other end of the rejection, you don't quite understand the process. Well, here are the 5 tips that I've learned from my experience over the decades. Tip number 1, get used to it. If you really expect to write for a while, there is no way to get around this. You have to get used to rejection. It's all a matter of changing your perspective. The thing about it is that it's all in your head. And you have to change the way you think about it so that you can actually get over it. Because the getting over it is all in your head. And once you do that, you will begin to develop that thick skin that everybody suggests writers need to have about their writing. Tip number 2 is get over it. Once you get used to it, then you have to get over it each time you get rejected. You can't let a rejection from an agent or an editor or the owner of a blog that you want to write for paralyze you. You have to get over it. You chalk it up to the writer's life and you move on to the next agent, editor, publisher, reader. Tip number 3, do not, under any circumstances, respond. I know it's very tempting, but do not respond to an agent. Do not respond to an editor at a publishing house. Do not respond to a reader who has written a 1-star review of your book. This is an absolute no-win situation for you. It will sour your reputation as a professional and paint you as a rank amateur for the rest of your career. And I'm here to tell you it won't make you feel any better. So refer back to tip number 2 and get over it. Tip number 4, revisit your rejected manuscript to see if there really is something wrong with it. Agents and editors and even readers, if you're talking about a published manuscript, reject things for a variety of reasons. Is there something wrong with that manuscript that you could fix? An agent or an editor might, for example, say that it's simply not a good fit for us. Well, that means that your research about that agent or that editor in the publishing house was not really stellar. So it may not be the manuscript that you need to fix, it may be your research. If an agent says anything at all specific to you, then have a look at it. Most agents are not going to give you something nasty in response, but they might make a mention of something that they think could be fixed. Take that seriously. Tip number 5, after as many rejections as you can take on a single manuscript, put that manuscript away in a drawer or tucked away on a computer hard drive and move on to a new project. Well, there's nothing to be gained from beating a dead horse, as they say. If it's been rejected over and over and over again, it's likely that it's going to continue to be rejected. Yes, we've all heard stories about the 100 rejections that a book received only to go on later to become a bestseller. Yes, that can happen. But you can only take so many personally, and you know yourself, and you know how many you can take. You have to keep in the back of your mind that those naysayers could be wrong, and you might revisit that manuscript again sometime. But when you can't take one more rejection on that manuscript, just yell plot twist and move on to something else. Here's something Stephen King once shared about his rejections over the years. By the time I was 14, the nail in my wall would no longer support the weight of the rejection slips impaled upon it. I replaced the nail with a spike and went on writing. And we all know where that decision led. But I'm going to give the last word to award-winning American writer James Lee Burke, who said this about rejection. Every rejection is incremental payment on your dues that in some way will be translated back into your work. So let's all use our rejections to make our work better. Talk to you soon. Subscribe to Write, Fix, Repeat, and maybe I can help you improve your writing knowledge and skills. 5 tips at a time.